I want to talk about a little bit about desoldering. What if you have solder, you have a bad component on a board. We'll use this board all over again. You have a bad component on the board, you want to get it off, but you don't want to destroy the board in the process. Well, there's a few different ways of doing this. I only have two of the tools that you can use. There's this, which is basically a pump. You push that in, heat the solder up, and you push the button, and it sucks the solder out. The problem with these are, A, the tip is plastic, so it melts. And you'll see there is a little bit of solder in there that from something else that stuck out. The tips melt and they wear out, so you have to replace them. The other issue is when you see how it jumps, it's just very hard to use. There's another option you can get, which is basically the same idea, but it's a bulb, a rubber bulb, and you squeeze it, stick it over the thing, and let go, and it would suck the solder into the bulb. And just like this one, if I can get this off, when it's all said and done with, if there was solder in there, like solder pellets, you would just empty it out and put it back on. I'm not a big fan. Now the other option, there's actually another solder sucker option. You get a solder station that has a vacuum or has a pump in it, and it's usually heated. Some of them aren't. Some of them use an iron to heat them. And basically it has sort of a metal version of this tip with a hole in the middle, and you stick it over top of the solder joint. It melts the solder, and it has a pump running at the same time, so as it melts, it's expensive, and just an amateur hobbyist wouldn't have one of those. I've been doing this for years, and I don't have one. I would love to get one, but life goes on. Enter. This is old. I actually found this in a box. But this is braided copper wire. Sometimes they have rosin or they have flux in them. But this is basically just braided copper wire. And after you use it, I don't know if you can see how well you can see on this camera. There's some solder there. We're just going to clip it off. And you can either leave it the way it is, or you can smush it, make it a little bit, flatten it out a little bit. And I'll show you. All you have to do is take a little bit out. Now granted, when you're doing this, this is copper wire. It gets hot. When you're applying heat here, heat will transfer up here, so you got to be careful. But usually it doesn't take that long. So you put it over top of the joint you want to remove solder from, and again, I'm sorry, this is hard with a camera. I can't even do it right because I can't. No, it kind of worked. It's hard to do with this camera in front of me. But essentially all you do is put the braid, desoldering braid, over top of the joint, heat it up, and if you notice, where'd it go? Here it is. Most of the solder is gone. Now, it's hard to see on the camera. I think through the viewfinder it's hard to see. But, I mean, there's definitely a distinct hole in the board. You can see, there's no globs of solder. It's, you can literally just push this component right through the board. And like I said, there's some solder on the end there. You just cut it off or just move up the thing a little. Now, if you're going to do this and it doesn't work, or you can't get enough solder off, one of the things you can do is actually add solder. So let's say this joint here doesn't, we've been trying to desolder it and it's just not working. It's not pulling enough solder. Add a bunch of solder to it. Let it dry. Okay. And then Yeah, we put a lot on there. But you get the point. You can actually add solder to remove the solder. See how much came off? And it's because it's braided, the solder just works its way up the braid. And when you're done, you just cut it off and you're good to go. I think this cane originally was 5 feet. 5 feet of copper braid. And again, I found this in a box, so it's fairly old. I don't even think Archer makes it this color anymore, to be wrong. But this is from Radio Shack. As long as it's copper, it'll work. There is some desoldering braid that I've seen that's tin. Considering solder itself is made out of tin, it doesn't work too well. Copper is a great conductor of heat, so it works the best. And that's that. So if you don't have a desoldering station and you have a choice of desoldering tools, I personally would recommend not getting this one. There's only been a few times where I actually used this and it came in handy. The El Cheapo bulb with the plastic thing works great. This works better. And a fancy desoldering station with an actual vacuum pump in it works the best. But I don't have that kind of money to spend on something like that when I have this. This is so cheap that I just would rather use this. And as far as wires are concerned, you can use the desoldering braid on the wires. You can use the soldered ends off and strip new and resolder it if needed. There's really no sense with wires in trying to desolder it because it's next to impossible. You have a copper braid here. Imagine trying to get the solder off of that. It would be next to impossible. So don't even bother with wires. Just cut it. And that's that for this time. Bye bye.